What if I told you that the distance between where you are now and where you want to be isn't measured in years, but in decisions? Imagine waking up every morning with unbreakable energy, crystal clear vision, and the absolute certainty that today will bring you one step closer to the life you've always dreamed of living. Now contrast that with how most people start their day, hitting the snooze button, dreading the morning commute, feeling trapped in a life that somehow happened to them rather than one they actively created. Which reality resonates more with you right now? I'm not here to tell you what you already know. I'm here to reveal what the most successful people understand that others don't. That extraordinary achievement isn't reserved for the lucky few born with special talents or privileges. It's available to anyone willing to embrace two fundamental forces: intentional living and unwavering discipline. Think about it. Every single person who's achieved greatness, from world-class athletes to revolutionary entrepreneurs, has had the same 24 hours in a day that you have. The difference isn't time, it's what they've chosen to do with that time, consistently day after day after day. As the legendary Jim Rohn once said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Yet, simplicity shouldn't be confused with ease. The path to an extraordinary life is simple to understand, but challenging to walk. And that's precisely why so few people ever experience the full measure of their potential. Today, we're going to explore the architecture of achievement, the mindset, habits, and actions that transform dreams into reality. I'm going to share with you a blueprint for living with intention and building the muscle of discipline that will carry you toward your goals with unstoppable momentum. This isn't just another motivational talk that leaves you feeling good, but unchanged. By the end of our time together, you'll have actionable strategies to immediately implement in your life. You'll understand not just what to do, but why it matters and how to sustain it when motivation inevitably wanes. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop living on autopilot? Are you prepared to take full ownership of your time, your choices, and ultimately your destiny? Because that's what awaits on the other side of the insights I'm about to share with you. Let's begin by envisioning what an intentional life actually looks like. Imagine standing at the helm of your own life, making deliberate choices rather than reactionary decisions. This is what it means to live intentionally, to recognize that your life isn't something that happens to you, but something you actively design through conscious choice. Most people drift through life responding to whatever demands scream the loudest: deadlines, obligations, other people's expectations. They mistake activity for achievement, busyness for purpose. But those who achieve remarkable things understand something profound. Without a clear vision of where you're going, no amount of effort will get you there. Think of your life as a journey across an ocean. You can row with all your might, but without a destination and a compass, you'll only move in circles, exhausting yourself while making no real progress. Intentional living is about defining your destination clearly, plotting your course deliberately, and adjusting your sails purposefully as conditions change. When you wake up with intention, you don't just react to the day, you direct it. Your morning isn't dictated by social media algorithms or news headlines. It's shaped by rituals that align with your highest priorities. Your workday isn't consumed by whatever emergencies land in your inbox. It's structured around activities that move the needle on what truly matters to you. This level of intentionality extends beyond just work. It influences how you spend your leisure time, who you choose to associate with, what information you consume, and how you speak to yourself. Every aspect of your life becomes infused with purpose and meaning. I once spoke with a former executive who had achieved remarkable success by conventional standards: wealth, position, recognition. Yet he confided that he felt hollow inside, like he'd climbed a ladder only to find it was leaning against the wrong wall. He had built his career responding to opportunities rather than creating them, chasing society's definition of success rather than defining it for himself. After a health scare forced him to reevaluate everything, he began living intentionally for the first time. He defined success on his own terms: meaningful work, deep relationships, physical vitality, and spiritual growth. Every decision he made from that point forward was filtered through this personal vision. Within 2 years, He had created a life that felt authentic and fulfilling, not because his circumstances had dramatically changed, but because his relationship to those circumstances had transformed. This highlights a crucial truth. Intentional living isn't about controlling every external variable in your life. It's about taking ownership of how you respond to those variables. It's recognizing that while you can't always choose what happens to you, you can always choose what happens in you. But vision without action is merely a daydream, and this is where many people get stuck. They can envision a better life but struggle to bridge the gap between imagination and implementation. This brings us to our next crucial element: clarity. Clarity is the bridge between dreaming and doing. Without it, even the most motivated person will struggle to make meaningful progress. Why? Because unclear goals lead to unfocused actions. Think about the last time you felt stuck or overwhelmed. Chances are, it wasn't due to a lack of effort but a lack of clarity. When we don't know exactly what we want or why we want it, we scatter our energy across too many priorities, making minimal progress on all of them. Rohn put it perfectly when he said, "If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much." So how do we develop this level of clarity? It starts with asking yourself deeper questions than most people ever consider. What do I truly want from my life? Not what should I want based on others' expectations, but what would make my life deeply fulfilling? What unique contribution am I designed to make? What values do I want to guide my decisions? When I work with clients on developing clarity, I have them complete an exercise called the perfect day. I ask them to describe in vivid detail what their ideal day would look like from the moment they wake up until they fall asleep, assuming they already had the life they truly desired. This isn't just about material possessions, but about how they would feel, who they would interact with, what work they would do, and how they would contribute. What's fascinating is that many people struggle with this exercise initially. They've been so conditioned to think about what's realistic that they've lost touch with what's truly desirable. But once they break through this barrier, the clarity that emerges is transformative. One client realized that despite chasing a high-powered corporate career, what she truly valued was creative expression and community impact. This clarity allowed her to realign her professional path towards social entrepreneurship, where she now applies her business acumen to causes she deeply cares about. She didn't abandon her skills. She redirected them toward goals aligned with her authentic self. Clarity also demands specificity. Vague aspirations like "I want to be successful" or "I want to be happy" provide no actionable direction. But when you clarify that success means building a location-independent business generating $10,000 monthly while working 25 hours a week, you have something concrete to work toward. When you define happiness as having deep connections with your family, regular adventures in nature, and creative work that challenges you, you can make deliberate choices to cultivate those specific elements. This level of clarity serves as your decision-making framework. When opportunities arise, you can evaluate them against your defined vision. Does this align with where I want to go? Does this support the life I'm intentionally building? If not, even good opportunities become easy to decline. But here's where many personal development approaches fall short. They overemphasize clarity and mindset while undervaluing the engine that actually delivers results: discipline. Without discipline, clarity alone will leave you with beautiful dreams but empty hands. Discipline is the great separator. It's what distinguishes those who achieve their potential from those who merely recognize it. And contrary to popular belief, discipline isn't about willpower or motivation. It's about systems and identity. Consider this. The most disciplined people you know don't rely on feeling motivated. They've developed systems that make their desired behaviors the path of least resistance. They've aligned their identity with their aspirations so that doing the work becomes a natural expression of who they are, not just what they want. As author James Clear explains in his book Atomic Habits, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. When you consistently show up for your morning workout, you're not just exercising your body, You're reinforcing your identity as someone who prioritizes health. When you sit down to write daily, you're not just working on a book, you're becoming a writer. This identity-based approach to discipline transforms "I need to do this" into "this is who I am." And that shift changes everything. I once worked with an entrepreneur who struggled with consistent execution. He had brilliant ideas, but poor follow-through. His breakthrough came when he stopped trying to force himself to be more productive and instead redesigned his environment to make discipline inevitable. He created a dedicated workspace free from distractions. He implemented time blocking in his calendar, treating appointments with himself as non-negotiable. He found an accountability partner who expected daily progress updates. He tracked his key metrics visually to make progress tangible. These systems made disciplined action his default mode, rather than something requiring constant willpower. But perhaps most importantly, he began to see himself as a finisher rather than just a starter. This identity shift meant that abandoning projects midway no longer felt congruent with who he was. Completion became a matter of personal integrity, not just professional success. The truth about discipline is that it's like a muscle. It grows stronger with use, but atrophies with neglect. Each time you honor your commitments to yourself, you build trust in your own word. Each time you choose the important over the urgent, the necessary over the comfortable, you strengthen your capacity for future challenges. And here's the paradox many miss. Discipline ultimately creates freedom. When you can trust yourself to do what matters consistently, you earn the right to flexibility and spontaneity without derailing your progress. The undisciplined person is actually a slave to impulse and circumstance, while the disciplined individual commands their time and energy with authority. As Rohn wisely observed, we must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons. But discipline doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's profoundly influenced by the environment you inhabit and the people you surround yourself with. This brings us to our next critical factor. Your environment isn't neutral. It's either conspiring for your success or against it. The spaces you occupy, the information you consume, and most importantly, the people you associate with are constantly shaping your thoughts, beliefs, and actions in ways you may not even recognize. Rohn's famous observation that "you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with" isn't just a clever saying, it's a profound truth about human development. We naturally adopt the perspectives, energy levels, ambitions, and even the financial habits of those we regularly engage with. Consider this. If you're the most disciplined person in your social circle, the most growth-oriented, the most committed to excellence, you're likely being subtly pulled down to the group average. Conversely, when you surround yourself with individuals operating at a higher level than you currently are, you'll find yourself naturally rising to meet their standard. I witnessed this principle dramatically demonstrated with a client who was perpetually frustrated with her lack of progress in building her side business. She was working hard, but gaining little traction. Upon examination, we discovered that every time she shared her entrepreneurial ambitions with her immediate social circle, she was met with subtle undermining. Is that really realistic? That sounds like a lot of work for uncertain payoff. Why not just focus on your stable job? These weren't malicious comments. Her friends genuinely cared about her security and well-being, but their limited perspectives were constructing invisible barriers around her potential. The solution wasn't cutting these people out of her life entirely, but strategically expanding her circle to include entrepreneurs who had already achieved what she was working toward. Within 6 months of joining a mastermind group filled with successful business owners, her revenue had tripled, her confidence had soared, and her execution had sharpened, not just because of the tactical advice she received, but because success had become normalized in her new environment. Your physical environment matters too. Research shows that people eat more when using larger plates, are more productive in well-lit spaces, and make better decisions in rooms with higher ceilings. These environmental cues operate largely below our conscious awareness, but profoundly impact our behavior. This is why intentionally designing your environment is such a powerful act of self-leadership. When you remove temptations rather than resisting them, when you make desired behaviors convenient rather than willpower dependent, you dramatically increase your chances of consistent execution. One executive I worked with transformed his productivity by simply putting his smartphone in another room while working on priority projects. This single environmental adjustment eliminated dozens of micro-distractions throughout his day, leading to deeper focus and higher quality output without requiring constant self-control. The wisdom here is recognizing that environment often trumps intention. Even the most committed individual will struggle in a toxic or misaligned environment, while even someone with moderate motivation can thrive in a perfectly optimized one. So ask yourself, is my current environment making my success more likely or less likely? Are the people around me expanding my sense of what's possible or constraining it? Is my physical space energizing me or depleting me? Your answers reveal whether your environment is an asset or a liability in your pursuit of an intentional, disciplined life. With vision, clarity, discipline, and the right environment in place, we now turn to a fundamental truth about achievement that often gets overlooked in our culture's obsession with overnight success. Transformative change rarely happens through dramatic, singular events. Instead, it emerges from the compound effect of small, consistent actions taken daily over an extended period. This principle applies universally, whether you're building wealth, improving health, developing relationships, or mastering a craft. Think about it this way. If you improve just 1% each day, after a year you'll be 37 times better, not just 365% better, because growth compounds. Conversely, declining by 1% daily leaves you approaching zero. This mathematical reality explains why small habits, for better or worse, determine your trajectory. I once worked with an author who had dreamed of writing a book for over a decade but could never seem to make progress. Her breakthrough came when she abandoned her sporadic approach of waiting for inspiration and free time. Instead, she committed to writing just 300 words daily, about one page, no matter what. This seemed almost trivially small compared to her vision of a 300-page book, but the math was compelling. 300 words daily equals 1,500 words annually, enough for most non-fiction books. By focusing on this manageable daily action, rather than the intimidating end goal, she completed her manuscript within 11 months. The small daily discipline, not some Herculean effort, delivered her dream. This principle applies equally to wealth building. Consider someone who invests $100 monthly versus someone who sporadically invests larger sums when motivated. The consistent investor nearly always outperforms over decades, not because of superior knowledge or timing, but because compound growth rewards consistency above all else. As Jim Rohn wisely noted, success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. The challenge is that these small disciplines often feel inconsequential in the moment. Does today's workout really matter? Will this one healthy meal make a difference? Does declining this single unnecessary purchase actually impact your financial future? In isolation, no single action appears significant. But this insignificance is precisely what makes small disciplines both powerful and dangerous. They're easy to skip because the immediate negative consequences seem negligible, but their cumulative impact, positive or negative, is enormous. This understanding transforms how you view daily decisions. That morning meditation isn't just 10 minutes of mindfulness, it's cultivating the mental clarity that will compound across all areas of your life. That hour spent learning isn't just acquiring information, it's expanding your capacity for value creation that pays dividends indefinitely. Every action sets in motion momentum that becomes increasingly difficult to redirect. This is why beginning is often the hardest part of any endeavor. You're overcoming inertia. But once positive actions generate momentum, maintaining discipline becomes progressively easier. Remember, mountains are conquered not by leaps, but by steady steps. Financial independence is achieved not through windfalls, but through consistent saving and investing. Expertise is developed not in workshops, but in daily practice. Relationships deepen not through grand gestures, but through regular presence and attention. The secret to extraordinary results is found not in extraordinary actions, but in ordinary actions taken with extraordinary consistency. And consistency is impossible without addressing the final piece of our framework, the ability to take action in the face of fear. Fear is the silent saboteur of dreams. It's what keeps brilliant ideas confined to journals, keeps important conversations unsaid, and keeps comfort zones impenetrably small. Yet those who achieve extraordinary things aren't fearless. They've simply developed the capacity to act despite their fears. Think about what fear has cost you already. The opportunities declined, the conversations avoided, the growth forestalled, all because something inside whispered, "What if you fail?" Or worse, "What if you succeed and can't handle it?" One of the most insidious aspects of fear is that it masquerades as wisdom. It presents itself as prudent caution, reasonable doubt, or responsible hesitation. This disguise makes it difficult to recognize when fear, rather than sound judgment, is driving our decisions. I worked with a talented professional who had repeatedly been encouraged to apply for leadership positions, but always found logical-sounding reasons to wait. "I need more experience first. The timing isn't quite right. I should get another certification." When we dug deeper, we discovered these weren't strategic calculations, but fear talking, fear of visibility, fear of criticism, fear of the unknown. Her breakthrough came through a simple question: if fear wasn't a factor at all, what would you do? Her immediate answer revealed her true desire and capability. She would absolutely pursue leadership. This clarity allowed her to recognize fear as separate from her authentic self, making it less controlling of her choices. The path forward with fear isn't elimination, but integration. As author Susan Jeffers suggests, the goal isn't to feel the fear and run away, but to feel the fear and do it anyway. This approach acknowledges fear as a natural human response while refusing to grant it decision-making authority. Neuroscience confirms this wisdom. When we avoid what we fear, we strengthen neural pathways associated with threat and avoidance. But when we act despite fear, we create new pathways associated with capability and courage. Each fear-transcending action literally rewires your brain to make future courage more accessible. This explains why successful people often describe pivotal moments when they force themselves to do something frightening, speak publicly, launch a business, have a difficult conversation, and found that this single act of courage cascaded into other areas of their lives. They weren't just addressing one specific fear, they were developing the meta-skill of courageous action. Jim Rohn captures this principle beautifully. If you are not willing to risk the unusual, you will have to settle for the ordinary. Risk and reward are perpetually intertwined, and comfort is often the enemy of growth. But courage doesn't always require grand, dramatic gestures. Sometimes the most profound acts of courage happen quietly. Choosing vulnerability in a relationship, standing by your values when it would be easier to compromise, or simply staying the course when results haven't yet materialized. What matters is developing the habit of acting in alignment with your vision rather than your fear. When fear arises, and it will, acknowledge it, but then ask, is this fear protecting me from genuine danger, or is it merely protecting me from growth? As we draw our exploration to a close, let's integrate everything we've discovered about intentional living and unwavering discipline. We've seen that success begins with clarity, knowing exactly what you want and why it matters to you. We've recognized that discipline isn't about rigid control, but about creating systems that align with your deepest values. We've acknowledged the profound influence of environment and the compound power of small, consistent actions. And we've confronted the reality that fear must be faced rather than avoided if we're to reach our full potential. These insights aren't merely philosophical, they're practical tools for transformation. The question now isn't whether you understand these principles, but whether you'll apply them. Knowledge without action is merely information, not transformation. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, commit to living with unprecedented intention and discipline. Start by defining precisely what you want in the key areas of your life: health, relationships, work, finances, personal growth. Create a morning ritual that grounds you in these priorities before the world can intrude with its demands. Design your environment to make disciplined choices the path of least resistance. Identify one small action in each area that, done consistently, will compound into significant progress. And finally, pinpoint one fear you've been avoiding and take a single step toward confronting it. Document your journey. Notice not just external results, but internal shifts, greater clarity, increased confidence, enhanced peace. Share your experience with others who will celebrate your progress rather than question your ambition. Remember the words of Rohn: "Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change." And not just any change, but intentional change directed toward specific outcomes and sustained through unwavering discipline. The gap between where you are and where you could be is bridged by the decisions you make today and every day hereafter. Not someday when conditions are perfect, not when you feel more ready or when obstacles have disappeared. Now, today, this moment. You have everything you need to begin. The choice, as always, belongs to you alone. Will you continue living reactively, at the mercy of circumstances and fleeting motivation? Or will you claim the power of intentionality and discipline to create a life of purpose, impact, and fulfillment? I believe in your capacity to choose the latter. More importantly, somewhere within you, beneath layers of doubt and conditioning, you believe it too. It's time to honor that belief with action. If this message has resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content designed to help you live with greater intention and impact. Share your 30-day commitment in the comments below and let this community support your journey toward your highest potential. Until next time, remember, your life becomes what you consistently do. Choose wisely, act boldly, and watch as possibility transforms into reality.